All right, everyone. Kate Stillman with Yoga Healer. I'm here, Samantha, and from Autoimmune Dysfunction to Autoimmune Powerhouse, Autoimmune Powerhouse. And Sam's website is Samantha Norman, Be Your Own Healer. So BYOH.com.
Sam Norman, BYOH.
Sam Norman.
Yeah.
BYOH.com. Awesome. So, I mean, let's just kind of start at the beginning, because I've been standing for 20 years talking about Ayurveda and how to take care of yourself and how it, one becomes strong in self or svastha and becomes able to then prevent, right, much of the unknown from having integrity cellularly within, which Ayurveda keeps pointing, around this cyclical nature, around the circadian rhythm, around line up to align. And in that aligning up, you experience deeper health and deeper connection and connection to ecosystem and connection to other people. And you have to deal with all the ways that you're out of connecting or out of alignment. And that comes up in the process of it all. So let's rewind, because like 10 years ago, you had a few autoimmune diagnoses and had symptoms that matched those. So what was that like? And what were they?
Well, starting at 13, I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune thyroid disease. It's actually quite common. And it was kind of the canary in the coal mine of like what my future was going to look like. And then by 25, I got diagnosed with a vascular autoimmune disorder that never really got a name given to it. I've been told lupus quite a few times, but I never fully converted. And then at 30, I got diagnosed with thyroid cancer, which 80% of the type of cancer that I had comes from people who have autoimmune thyroid cancer. And it was the cancer diagnosis that kind of made me pump the brakes. I was raised in an allopathic family. My dad's a doctor, mom's a nurse. I've been a nurse. I'd already been a nurse for 10 years when I got my cancer diagnosis, and something just kept telling me, I had a bit of a yoga practice at the time, that there was a different way to go about healing. And there was a different, taking all the meds and being on all the prescriptions and doing all the things, but not really addressing my lifestyle or my habits at all, was keeping me in a place of dysfunction and disease. And getting really scared about my own mortality helped me to awaken to this whole other world of looking at disease and wellness and balance. And it's been a totally transformational experience to go from somebody that has a lot of fear around disease and illness and exposure to someone who is like pretty immune strong and very, very stable in my physical body. Like I can encounter things and it doesn't seem to hit me as hard as other people. And it's been a journey to get here. But it's so cool to know on a cellular level, because of what I've experienced, and just being in this community and working with my own clients and watching people like get their immune function back, even after decades of dysfunction and disorder. Like it can come back into balance.
I mean, and this isn't awesome. And you just watched what happened, because you tested positive for COVID not long ago, and there were a group of other people that you were around, and that came from the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
That's where you got COVID, as nursing.
Yeah. From the people that I include in my everyday activities are also medical people, and one of us had an exposure, and within 72 hours there was 9 of us total that became positive.
It seems like from the beginning, like a lot of these different conversations around COVID and adaptive or acquired immune system versus innate immune system, and the amount of inflammation someone has going into testing positive for COVID. Like there's a lot of different factors. And I think for a lot of people, like it really hasn't been that easy to find information around that in the news. Like it's like the news is more like, at least in the United States, has been really reporting heavily on new cases and advisories around masking. And then like occasionally I'll find like a one line, I think in like Scientific American last month, looking at like how sick are people getting statistically, blah, blah, blah. And there's like one line in a 3,000 word, 4,000 word article that was basically like, oh, and by the way, like the amount of inflammation you have going in, which is affected by diet and lifestyle. And that's a factor in how much COVID's going to sink your ship. And the more I've paid attention to like, oh wait, for humans and viruses, this is an old story. And we adapt, like humans are really adaptable. But if the message is that you're not adaptable, then you have more fear. There's a very strong correlation between fear and inflammation. Inflammation from an Ayurvedic perspective disorganizes the immune response. So you're not going to have an organized immune response cellularly. So you're going to have a disorganized immune response. So I'm kind of curious, like you've been with me what course did you start with? I can't remember.
I lurked and watched the podcast since like 2014. And then I finally signed up for YHC in 2016.
Okay. So yoga health coaching, and then you're a coach, and then now you're a yoga detox mentor and all that. So what's a bunch of you at the hospital get diagnosed with COVID. You have over the years been building your immune capacity, your immune intelligence. You've been decreasing the inflammation in your body. You've been having a very strong awareness around what you do and how that makes autoimmune system symptoms worse or go away. Right. So there's all that. And then what was the experience of like seeing what happened to you and the cohort, your diagnosed COVID positive cohort?
Well, I mean, we've all been dealing with this for quite some time, right? So in February, when I started to realize like, wow, this is a, like a big deal and I need to make a plan, I definitely created a plan of action in case there was an exposure, and had some local plant medicine remedies. I made some tinctures last spring to help me get through it. Specifically, a plant we have up here called usnea, or old man's beard. It's a really powerful respiratory, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. And then just had like a good supply of, vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and elderberry around. So when I got the phone call that like, hey, one of us has been exposed and is showing symptoms, and you were with me yesterday and I'm starting to feel crappy, I was like, oh my gosh, okay. The first thing I thought of is I need to support my lymph system immediately. So I stopped what I was doing. I was actually in the office working. And before I went and picked up my daughter from daycare to pull her out of where she was around other kids, I went for a 2-hour ski, which might sound totally silly, but I'm really convinced that it helped me be able to launch my defense system and know that like, hey, there's invaders here that could really like do something. And the best thing that I'm going to be able to do is to get on the front side of the attack. So that is done by moving your body and helping to circulate the lymph and get your heart rate up. I felt fine, right? Like I wasn't sick yet. I didn't have any symptoms. I didn't have anything going on. So, and I knew that I was going to lose the thing that I feel like helps me the most with my immune strength and my stability, and that is spending time in nature. Because I was going to have to quarantine, I was going to have to isolate, I was going to have to mostly stay inside and not do the activities that I love most. So it was a very intentional thing that I did. And I went out for a ski and I moved my body and moved my arms and twisted and moved my legs and did all these funky movements as I was skiing up and skiing back down.
And that really speaks to the, coordinated intelligence. Like that's the opposite of a confused inflammatory response, right? It's like this coordinated, oxygenated cellular intelligence.
Yeah. And I immediately, moving as much like energy through the body as I could. and just really focused on hydration and rest. And over the course of the next 4 or 5 days, I did get some symptoms of headaches and diarrhea, but really, really mild. And by 5 days in, I tested positive. But after the day of diarrhea that I had, I didn't have any more symptoms.
And that's interesting, right? Because like in Ayurveda, that's diarrhea is usually especially like that, where then there's no symptoms, the body actually clearing out the virus. So it's now turning it into acquired immune system. It's saying like, hey, we've identified this isn't good, but we've organized it, brought it back to the digestive tract, and now we're going to clear it out of the body. And now you are stronger from the experience because your acquired immune system is more intelligent against yet another virus. So what was your thought in terms of like, had this hit me 10 years ago, what would have happened?
It would like be remiss of me because of my health history to say that there wasn't that there hasn't been like a healthy amount of fear around like, how strong am I? Is my body going to be able to handle this? Like, what's it going to look like? And like, you can tell it's triggering a pretty strong emotional response because 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been good. Like, I was in and out of the hospital on a regular basis, not able to breathe because of so much respiratory dysfunction. And just the chronic inflammation in so many different organ systems that I already had with me. You know, it was a vascular autoimmune disorder. It was in my plasma. It was everywhere. My whole body was inflamed. It used to swell up and my joints would like be unrecognizable and so painful. And I have reflected on that a lot this year. And it has motivated me more than ever to take this medicine and this work and this care that I do for myself much more seriously as a preventative tool that I can use to help me stay strong through stressful times, whether it's a pandemic or, you know, changing in relationships or whatever. When I focus on ojas primarily, rebuilding and maintaining my immune strength, I do good. I do well. And life is always going to throw us curveballs and stressful situations and things that we think we can't handle. But when we focus on the stabilizing nature of the end product of kapha tissue development is this awesome thing. And a really funny thing for me is I'm high kapha in my constitution. I have always struggled with my weight and carried extra weight. And in the last few years, that, as I brought my body into balance, has gone away. But I still always have had this deeply ingrained desire to be lighter, to be less. Mm-hmm. I was a collegiate athlete and we had to weigh in pre and post practice, and it was for hydration purposes, right? Mm-hmm. To make sure that none of us preseason were getting too dehydrated. But we had to write our weight on a wall with the rest of the team. I'm only 5'3" and I was the second heaviest player on the team. And it broke my heart to have this desire and like seeing everybody else's weight be so much less than mine and seeing it as this negative thing. And here it is, this quality that I possess in my constitution, in my nature, of a natural inclination to be a bit heavier, and fully recognizing now that that's what gives me such a robust immune system in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, right, like when you look at like that equals endurance plus stamina. Yeah. It's a very different perspective. And I think it's interesting to me, like, as more, as we embody ourselves, like as we bring consciousness more into ourselves, which is like, I think for people who, sometimes I'm like, do people understand what I'm saying? And I know when people have been around me a lot, they understand what I'm saying, but I know there's also this gap of like, what the hell is she talking about?
Right.
But there's this thing that happens, like when you're in yoga teaches it, right? Because when people start doing yoga, they have a hard time coordinating their movement from their breath. So they move, but their breath isn't the initiator of movement. And so as people get more experienced in yoga or Tai Chi or in Qigong or anything that's coordinating the mind into the breath, into the movement of the body, anything that's doing that is starting to move consciousness from the mind through the breath into the cells of the body. And that's creating this higher order of like, okay, I'm embodied. So the more consciousness is in our cells and the more the cells are coordinated, there starts to be a deeper level of embodiment. And like you described with people that have more kapha in their constitution, because of like cultural shaming around, we'll say, constitutional density, or constitutions that have more density, just because it's basically fashionable. It's like what constitution is in or out of fashion in any given cultural epoch, right? And right now, kapha's out, vata, pitta's in, so be it. But what kaphas will discover is that the more embodied they are, the more consciousness is in their cells. As they age, they start to notice like, oh my gosh, this is a tremendous advantage. Like I have more body, I have more endurance, I have more stamina, and I have more, like you're saying, I have more empowered immunity because of that. Because like so to speak, like the wind can't just like blow me over. And when we have the opposite of that, right, which is like this kind of, in Ayurveda we use the word ama, right? When there's confusion in the cells, that's essentially ama. When there's digestive toxicity in the cells, because we're eating foods that the body can't process, or we're eating too frequently, or we're eating too much, all of those things, or we're eating the wrong foods for the season, like ice cream in the winter, it gunks up the system, and we lose all that endurance and all that stamina and all that potential intelligence, and instead we just have inflammation essentially then.
Yeah, I've thought of it and looked at it too as just a general capacity. Like your capacity in your mind space and your physical body space grows the more depth of ojas or leaning into my constitution as kapha. I don't want people to think if they don't have high kapha in their constitution they're screwed, because that's not the case.
No.
It's the thing that we can all work on building and growing. And
let me just talk about that for a second, just to explain the concept here. So in Ayurveda, science of life, that's what Ayurveda means. There's 3 energies or forces. There's the force that moves energy. There's the force that transforms, and there's the force that coheses energy. So vata is the force that moves energy, pitta is the force that focuses or organizes or transforms energy, and kapha is the energy of cohesion. And everyone has all 3. Now, they all have subtle doshas, meaning they all transmute into a finer essence. And so the energy of vata, that force of energy, universal energy, transmutes through consciousness into prana, into high level energy in the body. The force of pitta transmutes into tejas, which is the high level of discriminatory power of the mind to say like yes to this and no to everything else. And then the subtle force of kapha is ojas, and that's the immune function it's the immune intelligence of your mind, body, spirit. I'll throw that in there. Physiology. Because if your spirit's in fear the whole time, like forget ojas.
Yeah. And that, I mean, the people that I got sick with.
Oh, wait, let me say one more thing. And everyone has all 3 forces and all 3 subtle forces. And that's what Sam is trying to emphasize. It doesn't matter which constitution, we all have the same, I wouldn't say ability to build these forces, but we all have all of them, and we should attend to the ones that we want more of.
Yeah. Yeah. And their potential. Yeah. When you were talking about like when you said that it's through mind, body, and spirit, the people that I was around that got sick, all relatively young, healthy people, and all affected in varying different ways. And the outlier that affected the intensity from the small group of people, like this is just my personal observation, is the people who were going through big spiritual crises type things had way more effects, you know,
So
that
they were
they're,
like, didn't like their job or their partner, or
yeah,
something was happening in the background.
yeah, like that layer of spirit was heavily being affected, and then the affection came in and it affected the physical body more. Like their recovery times were longer. And that comes back to, again, that stabilizing or cohesive nature of ojas, that like being able to deal with the different things on all layers. So yes, my physical body is stronger because I have strong ojas. My mental capacity is stronger because I am grounded and present of all that's going on. You know, there's ability to observe and absorb life in general, but then also in the subtle space there is a deeper layer. As my ojas has increased over the years, the fear of illness has dissipated, because as you stabilize, I think, on, and again, this is just my personal belief and my experience, but as I've stabilized in physical body first, mind space came along once there was more clarity and stability. But as I lean in and stabilize in like the more subtler aspects, my trust in myself has grown. My trust in my ability to heal, my ability to handle whatever situation comes, grows, and fear decreases.
In Living Ayurveda, it's super practical, it's super down to earth, and we want it to make a difference in your life, honestly, the moment you start. Hi, it's Kate Stillman, and I'm going to tell you about how the Living Ayurveda course works and why it works the way it does work. A part of my natural personality is that I'm a futurist. I'm an innovator. I can't help it. It's just the way that my awareness works and has always worked. So I'm always looking at how do we make Ayurveda practical to solve for our biggest problems, at home, in nourishing ourselves and getting deep rest and passing on the habits to those who our lives affect. If we understand our habits are truly not our own, we say, hey, whose habits affect me and whose habits am I affecting? And can we align those habits with the kind of radiant longevity that we want to experience, right? Year by year, decade by decade by decade by decade in our road ahead. The other core part of my philosophy is around collective leadership, and I take those two words very seriously. I see how there's a whole next level of open-minded integration where we look at the questions that you're bringing, the conversations you're wanting to have, and we build that into our leadership model, help lead and guide our community in the direction of addressing the deepest, most potent issues that'll help us get the greatest traction in growth and transformational evolution. So that's a lot of, my philosophy on Living Ayurveda. I look at our planet, I look at the stresses to our ecosystems, the stresses to our human population, our human culture, and that's what we're solving for. So that's how the whole course is geared. I take my community very seriously, become part of my heart, you want to become part of my people, and that's how the course works. I mean, that's why it works too, is it's even though we're all coming in from all over the world, we have an experience of deep connection, deep community, and evolution together. All right, I hope that clarifies some of your questions around the Living Ayurveda course. Yep, that's what happens. I mean, and it's in the Yoga Sutras, right? It's in the Yoga Sutras. I've been talking about this a lot this month on Body Thrive calls, live sessions with the members. It's like these ways that humans suffer, like the codification by the yogis of the ways humans suffer, and the big one that seems to be coming up a lot right now is abhinavesha, like fear. Basically, it's fear of death, fear. So we all have fear of death. It's part of being a mammal. It might be part of being a multicelled organism. It might go way back, and that's a propensity towards life. It's the way that we orient to choosing more life. So it's functional. It's a functional fear. And yet, why are the yogis saying, well, this is a cause of suffering? Because at some point, we can't actually trust life if we're in fear of death. or if we're in fear of the unknown, if we're in fear of whatever it is, the thing, we actually lose our ability to understand what's actually happening. So say we're so afraid of the next virus or the current virus or the thing, or breaking up with a person or quitting the job, or those things that were going on in the back of the people's minds that you were talking about, right? Like there's a fear of the future not going the way we wanted it to go, or what, right? Fear of losing money, not having enough, not having shoes for the kid, like whatever it is, right? Like there's fear, and the fear itself, and this is where the Yoga Sutra teaching comes in. It's like the fear itself is clouding perception. So now you don't get a good read on reality, and you want a good read on reality. You always want the best read on reality so that you can adapt and adjust. I was listening to this lecture with Jordan Peterson was teaching at University of Toronto. I think it's 2016, his intro to his 260 level psychology course. And he's basically like, archetypes, like you're the hero in the story. Every story, you're the hero in the story. Now, to be the hero, you want to be more focused on your potential and less focused on who you are now. And the way you mess that up is get more focused and identified with who you are now and less focused on your potential. And I was like, that's it. Because if you're focused on potential eats fear for breakfast. It really does. Like it just digests it. Like the two don't really coexist in the same vibrational space. And so when we're clouded by fear, we're focused on protecting who we've already become. It's like protecting, it's basically a past. It shifts the mind body into the past, which is not where the adaptive immune system lives at all. The adaptive immune system lives in the present, moving into the future, acquiring what we need in the future. And so if we go into that place anti-inflamed, and we should probably unpack this a little bit about like the connection between inflammation and stress, or inflammation and fear, and why the yogis have a practice. And it's not just the yogis, right? It's like any wisdom tradition, I'll just go super broad with this net. Like any wisdom tradition basically is saying like, you have to learn from today. You have to apply what you learned yesterday to tomorrow. And in order to do that, just to highlight what you said 5 minutes ago, you must reflect. You must have quiet time. You must absorb and reflect so that you can see what you're currently doing that's not working, and you can see what you should test tomorrow or in the rest of today. You should see where you're actually moving your awareness into potentiality through taking action. Yeah. And that doesn't just happen when you're just like busy, stress, and then watching Netflix or whatever.
Yeah. And always coming, like you said, must take time to reflect. Digest came into my mind, because it's one of the like biggest factors is allowing for spaciousness, between your meals will really help decrease the inflammation throughout the whole body, and giving your body time and space to digest whatever's going on. And that means decreasing your intake through all 5 senses and being super conscious about what you're deciding to digest through the 5 senses, and knowing that that has deep impacts on your ability to do the reflection and do the digestion and let go of things that are not helping you move forward and not helping you grow.
When you look back at when you started yoga health coaching, because yoga health coaches go through Body Thrive and the habits, like what was your keystone habit? Like what was the habit that you recognized, like this is going to help me build my immune intelligence?
It definitely started and still is easeful living.
So explain to people what that is, because it's like such a tricky habit. It's such a tricky habit. Number 10 in the Body Thrive book.
Yeah.
Didn't make the first round of the Body Thrive course, but then we caught on pretty quick to that.
Yeah. I think, it's a lot to unpack, but essentially, and I think traditional Chinese medicine does such a beautiful job of explaining it with yin and yang energy. Yin energy is cooling, it's nourishing, it's replenishing, and it's healing. And Western medicine, it's referred to as the parasympathetic nervous system, right? And then we have our yang energy, which is fiery, it's hot, it's churning and mobilizing, it's activating. But because of that intensity and heat, which we need for digestion, we need for discernment in the mind. Ooh, almost knocked off my glasses. But when it's on all the time, if it's in this yin and yang balance, and I'm using my hands to describe it, but we all know the symbol. If the sympathetic is constantly firing, which culturally our society is in a constant fire, go, 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 always taken, you're listening to podcasts, you're watching things on Netflix, you're consuming through your digestive, like you're just eating a lot of different foods, your schedule is so packed full, you're constantly in this fire mode. And if fire is going too much in the body all the time, the cooling, nurturing, replenishing, and healing energy gets dampened. And we cannot reset and heal our bodies if we don't have a balance between those two energies. And the fastest way to cool off the yang energy is just to make a decision, because it actually is a choice we get to do, that every time there's something that comes in as potentially triggering or something that you would consider a stress response, we all feel it in different places in our body, knowing where you feel it. Like some people feel the bubble gut, right? Some people feel like tightness in their chest. Some people feel it like through their throat or like a pain in their head. We all have different ways on a visceral level our body responds to stressful situations. But if we can connect to that and have greater awareness to those moments when that happens, and make a choice in that moment to take a deep breath, have a simple plan for when life goes sideways. I love the thymus thump, taking your hand and making a fist and tapping the center of the chest 5 times, taking a deep breath and letting it go in real time helps me to downregulate an entire system of my body and my mind into less of stress response. So inherently less inflammation, because less of that fire energy, and more of relaxation, digestion, and healing. And it's a moment to moment thing that you have to raise your consciousness and your awareness to. And what I was doing prior to learning the importance of this habit was constantly measuring, critiquing, criticizing, and reacting to life as it happened.
That's all Maya Mala in yoga philosophy and in tantric yoga philosophy. So it's like 1,000 years after the Yoga Sutras, right? Where you have this differentiation of how humans contract, and that particular pattern of like how you take yourself out of the game is the third eye contraction, where it's like the third eye can measure difference, which is great to discriminate what yes is. So if you're like, oh, that's contracting, thymus, heart thumping, great. But what normally happens is, I suck, I should be doing this better. There's my to-do list now just grew by 10 more things that are now stressing me out even, right? And the story goes on.
Yeah.
And it disorganizes the immune response. And I think that's really the driving home here is like, this is the way that you were able to take charge of, oh, I'm actually able to design my immune system. Oh, I'm in the driver's seat of this. And I need to use these little tiny triggers that happen throughout the day, which in behavioral sciences this is an emotional habit trigger where the emotional body is going in the wrong direction. Consciousness says like, whoa, I know where this one goes and I don't want to end up down that path. Thank you very much. So instead, I'm going to be back in the driver's seat and make the choice to go in this direction.
Yeah, because the physiological response that happens in the body is the same if you're actually being chased by a bear or a tiger or a lion, or if you're like, oh my God, I've got so much on my to-do list.
Yeah.
The physiological response is the same.
It's the same.
We do not need to be chased by bears and tigers and lions in our heads all day long. And we have this really powerful tool to help us downregulate and be able to have greater capacity in just that simple action.
Yeah.
And that's been like, I pass it on to a lot of nurses, is like a simple deep breath, or, you know, like people that are on the front lines and care providers right now. Cause a lot of people are
Yeah.
super stressed out. We're working extra
Yeah.
shifts. There's lots of staff that are gone,
Yeah.
and people need like an in the moment thing that they can do.
Yeah.
And a simple pause, recognizing that it's happening, taking a deep breath. And if it's not enough, tapping your chest a few times, even in like the craziest of situations. Like I do it quite frequently at work. It comes from kinesiology, and it's, the idea is that like we have a charge, we carry a charge of energy with us. We're all frequency and matter. And our electrical circuitry is very strong in the heart, right? We have our SA and the AV node. It's an electrical pump.
Yep.
And we can just kind of let go and down regulate some of the energy circulating through the body by tapping on the chest, because there's a gland behind the heart that Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine say is the seat of the soul. So you can let yourself know through physical and spiritual sense that like, hey, I'm here with you. All of us are present. We know this is stressful, but we can get through this. So just take a deep breath. And it sounds so trivial, but it's
just how it works though. I mean, we have a physiology, and it's not just physical, it's mental, and it's emotional. I mean, it's in our Ayurveda, right? This is actually in yoga too. And anyone who's read Light on Yoga by BKS Iyengar, who talks a little about the sadhaka, and in our Ayurveda, there's sadhaka pitta. It's the function of that transformative force that circulates between the third eye and the heart. Right. And so it's saying like, oh, wait, no, heart is center, but there's a circulatory pattern between the two. It's very subtle. It's very subtle. And it's saying like, or the sadhaka orients from the heart and uses the insight. Right. And so it's such a simple thing. And yeah, we could probably find symbology in like a million different places or different teachings from different cultures that are more or less saying like, yeah, like whatever can bring you now and be like a dog and shake off the excess energy and then return you in time in the driver's seat, like that's what enables you to shift from an inflammatory response to a relaxed, organized, coordinated response.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said shaking too. Shaking's been huge. That's another thing that I've been telling people to do, and I do on a regular basis. Like this is a response that we all have for a reason, but culturally we've blocked it out. Watch an animal when it gets scared, it shakes, it helps us to let it go so that we don't continue to carry it forward. So if you feel the need to like do it, like let it go, shake it out.
Shake it out. I think we have a link, we'll put it in the show notes, to a little Tai Chi shaking video, how to organize your shaking.
Yeah.
People want an organized shaking practice, but otherwise it's like, that's all it takes. It's like, it's the concept of using like, oh, I'm going in the wrong direction. That's the trigger. Go back in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Sam Norman of BY, Be Your Own Healer. B-O.
I'm your own healer.
Give me the letters again.
BYOH.
BYOH. Love it. Yeah. Awesome. It's been really fun to have you as a member. I was just remembering when you were telling the beginning of your story, I was like, oh yeah, I remember like the cancer part was pretty fresh when we were, and there was, it happens a lot for yoga health coaches who are coaching members, and their members have really scary diagnoses, and it's like for good reason, because, as much as we want to overcome our fear of death, it's like, it's tricky business. And just to hear your story of being able to take charge, like being able to really work the habits, to guide other people through habits, to keep learning and growing, even in situations that are increasingly challenging, like being a nurse in a hospital in COVID and raising a daughter, more or less solo. That's 3. Like there's a lot. And there's a lot that people will hear in hearing your story, that it's like, oh yeah, maybe I too have some choices, and about 50,000 of them a day, that I can align to the potential I want to experience. So thanks so much for being a glimpse into what can be.
Yeah, and it's my pleasure to share my story. And if anybody out there is feeling like super inflamed and super fearful, or not really sure how to like start, like just start checking in and prioritizing your wellness and your deeper needs, like those pauses, those moments when we reorient to ease, like we were just talking about, like check in with what you really need. It might be more rest. You might need a whole lot more rest than you know you need. And focusing on like the quality of the food that you eat, like that is our power, that is our medicine, and everything can be turned around. It's really, really awesome. And it's definitely so important for us to not only like take care of yourself right now, not just for yourself, do it for your community, do it for the overcrowded hospitals right now. Like if you want to support, yeah, like social distance, but take freaking really good care of yourself. Watch less TV, move your body more. Like this is how we're going to help heal the planet, is by us getting stronger and feeling more stable and at peace with our own innate ability to heal ourselves.
Amen.
It's super, super important.
Yeah. Amen. Love it. I love your message. I love your message. Thanks so much.
Thank you.